joining me today too. I know how busy you are, but I was very excited to speak to you because I've got a chance to bump into you a couple times over the past month. I would thought it would be great to hear your story about your entry into travel. I know you've spent a lot of time in a lot of different suppliers and a lot of different companies, and I think you've had you shared some great things with me when we were speaking earlier this month too.
Yeah. No, I think I was just meant to be in the travel business. I moved out to New York when I was 21 years old, and I was going to school finishing up at Hunter College in Manhattan.
Okay.
And I had been a nanny for the summer. And I got a job at a travel agency called Better Travelers in Mamaroneck, New York. And I worked for these three amazing women who they owned the business together. And I learned a lot from them, just seeing how they were interacting and stuff. And they hired me as a Girl Friday. That was my first title. Um,
A girl Friday, that was the
Girl
title?
Friday. That's what they called me, the Girl Friday. That's what the
Okay.
job. That's what the ad said in the newspaper. They were hiring a Girl Friday, and I was like the gopher. Yeah, I did whatever they told me to do. But what was great is I was anxious and I was curious, so therefore I got to learn. They sent me to Sabre schools. I got to go to Dallas and learn, the system, and so they saw that I actually could take on more than what they originally planned for me to do. But sadly, I had to leave because I didn't have any medical insurance. I don't know about you, but when you're young, you need medical insurance,
Yeah.
right? And this is a small business. They didn't have those facilities back then for me. So I went to go work for American Express, where I stayed for 23 years. So I worked my way up the ladder throughout that company. I started as a frontline, what's called a TC3, Travel Clerk 3, which is, I think, the lowest position in the entire company. I think it has to have been. And I would actually handwrite tickets and strip tickets and put them together. And I quickly learned enough to be able to take calls, because I wasn't good enough at taking calls at that point. And then I started taking calls, and within about 2 years, I was actually what's called a pace setter, which is their top of travel agents. So I
Oh
actually,
wow.
outpaced my sales, and I realized then that I wanted to do more. So I went off and I became a team leader, and then I was a manager, and kind of stayed in travel for several years. And then I moved over to the card side of the business and did a few things there. I took a lot of lateral moves, and that's one thing I always tell people in your career. It's not always a ladder. Sometimes it's a jungle gym, and you got to be willing to make lateral moves in order to make yourself, more well-rounded and more prepared for the next step.
Yeah.
Uh,
Wait, so you said you moved to New York when you were in your early 20s.
yeah.
Where did you grow up?
Oh, I grew up in Spokane, Washington.
Oh
So
my
I'm
God.
from Washington State. So I
How
grew up in
far is
Spokane.
Spokane away? I mean, Spokane's is a fairly major
Yeah,
city. Yeah.
major city,
Yeah.
huge.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
it is a major city. It's the second largest city in the state of Washington, followed by Seattle, of course. So Seattle's over on the coast, and Spokane's closer to Idaho. So,
Okay.
as an example, when I was a kid, we used to ride our bikes from Spokane to Coeur d'Alene, Idaho,
Oh my
which is like
God.
31 miles. And we were like 11 years old, and we'd all get on our bicycles. It was like out of a movie. And we'd go and ride our bikes to our lake cabin when we were kids, because we wanted to have our bikes there for the summer. So my dad said, well, if you want your bikes, you got to ride them there. So we all ride our bikes out there, and then, and
Oh my
then
God.
with no cell phone, nowhere to
31
contact us.
31 miles too.
I know,
Yeah.
on our little bike,
Yeah.
the banana seat bicycles, like this wasn't
Yeah.
even at a 10 speed.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been bike riding around my neighborhood now, and I getting up to like 15 miles, and I'm coming back feeling super accomplished. And you
Yeah,
were, yeah, a
yeah.
child riding 31
Yeah.
miles. Yeah, I
Yeah.
can't
But we always
imagine
had
it.
this one place. It was called George Washington. It was this little town called George Washington.
Okay.
And we would stop there. And there was this little store there. We always would stop. My dad would give us like $5 each to stop and get like a sandwich and a soda and stuff. And we just thought we were so cool.
You were though. You were
Oh,
so cool.
absolutely. So
Yeah.
cool. Yeah.
So you mentioned lateral moves, and that's something that's interesting because I don't think I've had that conversation with people when they're talking about their careers and travels, making lateral moves. Because
Yeah.
obviously, a lot of sacrifice comes with that.
Yeah.
But I mean, what does that come down to? Like your confidence in making that decision to make a lateral move. I mean, is it
Right.
just confidence in yourself, confidence in your future? Like how, even especially as sort of a young person in their career, I mean, how would you process that?
Well, you don't know everything when you first start, right?
Yeah.
So you start off in a position. In order to make yourself more marketable, you got to think of yourself as as a commodity, right? You got to make yourself, so how am I going to make it that people want to hire me, right? You've actually got to build that foundation, and part of that foundation is not just going up. You actually got to make it very strong and solid at the bottom. So when people look at your resume, they see that you have all these different experiences, not just one singular experience. So I think I was very lucky in that I worked across the card business. I worked across the corporate card business, across the travel business. I sold travel. I sold business travel. I sold leisure travel. So I think having all those different things in my background certainly set me up to be able to run the retail travel business at American Express, which was my last job there. I would never have been able to do that job if I hadn't had all these other experiences. I am able to put myself into the shoes of a travel advisor, but I'm also at the same time able to talk to someone really about business travel and about that executive about business travel and how to sell it to them and what their needs are. So I could have never done that in a million years if I hadn't had a strong foundation.
Yeah, but I mean, obviously, making a move, quote unquote, backwards it has to be tough for people to decide to do that, especially like, yeah. But you seem you
Yeah,
seem super comfortable with it.
I am because I just well, and I think what it was is that I was probably at Amex. It was not unusual. So I also worked in a culture
Yeah.
that actually thrived on that, right? A culture that encouraged it. So you were never going to go up to the like. There's a lot of different a lot of different manager positions, and then there's a lot of different director positions, right? And there's also different levels within managers and different levels within director. So you might, if you're a manager in card versus a manager in health, maybe you get a little bump in salary, but not really. It's more about you getting that experience. So therefore, when that director position came open, you are ready to take it. And like I said, there's no way I would have become a vice president at Amex if I hadn't done those things. I mean, I was a director 3 different times in three
Yeah.
different positions. And sometimes at one time I was a director for 1 year. You know what I mean? So it's not like you're doing it forever.
Yeah, so you sought out different
Yeah,
experiences in the workplace.
absolutely,
Okay.
absolutely. I think I get bored really quick. But I mean, I loved it because I got to a point that I found what I really was passionate about, and I was in my last position at Amex for 9 years, running the retail travel business, and that was a blast. I absolutely loved it, and I would. I just saw that Amex as a company was changing a little bit. It's still one of the strongest travel and companies out there, but things were changing, and so it was the right time for me to make a move.